Here we are. Welcome everyone to Kind of a Bitch. This is a podcast about showing up boldly and authentically in both business and in life. We are sharing stories about transformation and about navigating changes, about learning to communicate with confidence and how to lead with both kindness and a backbone. Today, I am so excited because I'm joined by Julie Johnson, who is an absolute powerhouse in the real estate lending world. She's known for her deep expertise on relationship building, on strategic thinking, and her ability to make even the most complex financial decisions feel really approachable. She's built a career on trust, on communication, and helping people navigate the high stakes world of home financing with confidence and comfort. Oh my gosh, Julie, I am truly so happy to have you here. To be perfectly honest, when I think about our tagline, which is unapologetically bold and fiercely kind, you are one of the first people that comes to mind. So I'm just so pleased you're here.
Wow, thank you so much. That's such a nice introduction. And I mean, just to say, I mean, you are natural, and I've been waiting for you to have a show, and I don't want this to be the only show. I want something else, like on Food Network, on some single show that you can, MC, whatever. You're going to be amazing.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I feel like I've needed another place to get back on the microphone now that I'm not on the stage as much, and this is definitely releasing some of my need to yap. And share. So truly, I'm just so pumped. Julie, I'm gonna pop right into the questions here, just because I feel like I have so many things that I want to know about you, and I feel we've had the opportunity to chat a number of times, but I don't know if I've gotten to know as much about like your past and sort of how you got to where you are, and I think the folks listening are going to be pumped about that as well.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, first things first, I want to start from the beginning. So I'm curious, can you tell me a little bit just about how you grew up?
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up with two brothers initially, and a very chaotic childhood, to be honest. Just a lot of trauma.
Yeah.
I don't need to go into all the details, but just nothing that I would ever want any of my kids to go through. So, what's interesting is I've always wanted to be a mom. That was one of the very first things that I ever wanted to be, as a mom. And so I kind of channeled that to, okay, what I experienced, I don't want that to happen. I want to do everything opposite. Not that I'm perfect as a mom, but that was probably the first job that I ever wanted in my life. But yes, I had a chaotic childhood. To be frank, it's basically my dad ended up divorcing my mom and marrying my mom's sister. Yes.
That's some tea.
Yeah, that is. It was very chaotic, and it wasn't handled very well. And I can honestly say that, everything done, it was meant to be, because they were wonderful together. They passed away a couple of years ago in a car accident. My dad and my stepmom, my aunt, and I love them to death. But growing up, it was very chaotic.
Sure.
Yeah, my mom had, she was an accountant, and she, was a single mom. And so we lived with my mom, but saw my dad on the weekend. So up until I was 8, until I was 18, I was basically living back and forth between my mom and dad and my aunt and stepmom. And we did our best, but it was very stressful and chaotic. My mom was actually very kind about it, because she included her sister and my dad on the holidays. And so we saw each other, but it was just something weird, growing up feeling that way. But in all honesty, I have 2 younger brothers or cousins too, half brothers and cousins, and I love them to death. I really, really do. So today I have 4 brothers, and 3 of them live in Seattle, and 1 of them lives in Arizona. So it all ended up okay, but that's how I grew up, a little chaotic. I always felt like I was 10 years behind. When you're with a single mom, and if sometimes it doesn't go well where they're very busy, and we were kind of neglected. So no one told me, hey, you're going to go to school, you're going to do this. I remember sneaking out many times, not even going to school, missing school, and just kind of barely getting by and everything. So it was pretty crazy. And I can honestly say that probably having my son at the age of 19, my oldest, probably saved my life. So,
Wow.
yeah, so pouring into him and loving him completely changed me. And yeah, I was a wild one.
Oh my gosh, I love knowing this about you because I don't know if I would have pegged you for being someone who snuck out and skipped school. I assumed you were just like me, like absolutely a teacher's pet and would never skip school if someone paid me.
Yeah. No, 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 no. I've thank goodness, most of my kids, made it by the opposite way, but still struggling here and there. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I caught everything when they were growing up. I'm like, I know what you're doing because I've been there before.
I already did
But yeah,
that. I see what
yeah,
you're doing.
yeah, exactly.
Oh my God. That is intriguing to me. So you started watching, I mean, knowing that your mom was handling something that was probably quite jarring for her while
Mm.
still trying to keep everything kosher within the home. I mean, I'm assuming that is what you're talking about, picking up on
Yes.
that. Like she was doing her best, but it's still hard to ignore that
Oh,
type of
very, very
tension.
much. Yeah, I'm sure it was very painful for her.
Mm-hmm.
She did end up getting married a couple
Mm-hmm.
times after that
Mm-hmm.
too. So she was married twice, and but just really never, had much luck in love, to be
Yeah.
honest. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I did see her work very, very hard, as well as my dad. So they're very, very hard workers for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's a good segue to this next question. I am always curious, and I feel like we start to notice these things later in life, but this is, how did you learn how to be? Like, can you recall how you
Mhm.
learned how to be and act? Because it sounds like you might have one method, but then maybe you had to relearn or change all of that
Mhm.
once your son was born.
Right. Yeah. I think I've always been a little bit reserved. Just
Mm,
from, I think like, you know, um, since I was little, I was always reserved. And so
mm,
I wasn't bold or anything like that. And, but being a mom, of course, that changed things, right away. And then going into becoming a lender, which was my very first job ever.
sure.
Yeah. So I had to adapt to that to be a little bit more bold. And then, and then going forward to that, just, when you become a good originator, when you know your craft and you get
Mm,
really good at it, all of a sudden they're like, okay, now you got to hire people and lead them. And you're like, what? I don't even know how to do that. So
yeah.
I learned all that. But yeah, so I gradually have changed. And I feel like I'm always still changing. Like every 4 or 5 years, I'm a different person. I'm just constantly growing.
Oh my gosh, I do I love that. I think that we get so caught up in the labels of who we are,
Hmm.
and we do that with other people too, right? We notice that we talk about this a lot in my girlfriend group. Many of us have known each other since we were 18, and the evolutions that we've all had since 18, there's quite a few of them, different relationships, different seasons of life, and I think that it's easy to forget that we are constantly changing, and it's hard to accept that you're different and that other people are different, and it's
Oh,
all
yeah.
happening at different times.
It is. It is. We're completely changing from the things that happen into our life, happen to us, from the bold things that we have to do to move
Right.
into our careers. And it's just, and I love it, to be honest. Like, I want to keep changing. I want
Yeah.
to keep growing.
Yeah. If you're not growing, you're dying, as some might
That's
say. So I'm curious, like, why lending? What drew you to that? Was that something that you had in your sights, or where did that come
right.
from?
Right. Well, so I got married very young and
Uh-huh.
had three little kids. So by the time I was 23, I had three children.
Okay.
Yeah, so very, very young. And so then I went through a divorce. I was I was, because when you grow up and you have sort of a traumatic childhood, I think that you just look to wherever comfort might give you. So I ended up marrying somebody a lot older than me,
Hmm.
about 16 years older, who I thought was going to save me, right? Ended up being, he was an alcoholic. And so
Mm.
I took my kids and left in the middle of the night and moved in with my mom and just left. And I didn't,
Yes.
I was a stay-at-home mom. That's all I was doing until I was 27. And then I said I have to find a job. And the only job that I could find at that time, which lending back then was completely different than it is today. You didn't even
Mm.
have to be licensed. It was kind of like the cowboy, wild, wild west. It was really weird.
What?
I know, it was really different. So I ended up finding a job. where, they would hire me because I didn't have any experience, and it was 100% commission. So I've never had any other job but 100% commission. So that's how I got into lending, because I had to find a job where I could pick up my kids from school, I could take them to school, and then and that's the only job that would take me. And looking back at it now, it's like I won the lottery, because I completely love what I do. And I'm just so grateful that I somehow got into this industry.
Yes. Well, it sounds like you were pursuing a lifestyle, like a life that would allow you certain things, and lending happens to fit that mold a little bit.
At that time. Today it's different.
Today is different. Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would call lending the wild, wild west anymore.
No. Thank goodness too.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So this is amazing. I knew that you had a long career in this. But honestly, lending, a little bit like real estate, it is saturated. Like, there are so many lenders in this world. And I will say, from my experience working with you, for those who don't know, Julie was introduced to me by a set of clients. Every real estate agent has a lender that they build trust with, who follows through on the transactions, who is a good communicator, who has like a style that really works with the agent, because we know that if we have an amazing lender who does a good job for our clients, our life is easier. And I met you through clients. And so of course I'm always like, well, I don't know this person yet. So we'll see,
Right.
And I will say, within the first phone call of working with you, I was like, dang, what? This is a different level. It was just so lovely. And the thing that really, at least for me, that really struck me was your generosity and your kindness, and the way that you spoke to me as an equal and a partner, and just the over communication in the best way. That's exactly what I needed. And so I'm wondering, that's what you have now, but this is such a saturated industry in general, real estate. And you have created a team, not only just you, but a team that really stands out, not just in Washington, but around the country. I mean, I've seen the people who you're interacting with. I'm really wondering, what is the value or the focus that you've carried with you through all of this, and that you've passed to your team, that continues to lead to success? And how did that get there? How did you figure this out?
Right. Well, I mean, when you're doing something for such a long time, you can see something, you can see things that work and, and what don't work. And unfortunately, when you enter lending, no one tells you, okay, they say get your license, but when you get your license, and I'm sure it's the same with real estate, no one tells you how to treat people, how to sell, none of that. You just don't know. And so luckily, the company that I was working, my second company, I've only been with 4 companies in the last 27 years, but the second company that I was with introduced me to coaching. And so that's where I joined a coaching group where they coach top lenders and realtors throughout the nation. And I'm still part of that today. I'm actually a coach today, where I have 12 students every 6 months, and all across the United States. And when you're coaching, you also get better. But not only that, we have amazing mentors, and we learn all of these things together. So, and the goal is to, of course, have great relationships, build wealth, save your money and give away your money. So that's pretty much the basis of that. And it's completely changed my life. And I owe a lot of it to that, of course, to the core coaching that I belong to. So that's how I learned it. And it's really interesting, because no one really teaches you how to be a leader. No one, you just don't know. You have no idea. So I may have a great team today, but it's because I didn't before, because I was a terrible leader. It's my fault, right? Everything is my fault. That was one of the things the mentor told me, Julie, everything's your fault. And there's ownership with that, because you can change things. So I really grasped on that and just said, yeah, it's my fault. So I need to get better. I need to, I've had people leave me. I've had people tell me that I was rude. I mean, I've had everything, and so I've grown. I didn't start off very well, but I've grown for sure. And I still have growth in me, and still more to give.
Of course. So when you bring, because again, I know that I know your team. I love everyone on your team. And I do feel like you all have I don't know. To me, I look at it as there is a generosity. And is that something that you teach them, or do you look for people who already have that
Right.
mindset?
It's a little bit of both.
Mm,
You have to hire people that are naturally happy and have good attitudes,
mm.
because if you don't, they can slip back, into a negative, being
Old patterns.
negative. And when you're dealing with, the public and consumers, it's easy to get your feelings hurt, and it's easy to lash out sometimes if somebody's upset with you.
Mm,
But yes, it is, daily team meetings. Every Wednesday, I do training with all the staff people. I have branches in Virginia, Spokane.
mm,
There's a few more in Seattle and Vancouver,
mhm,
Washington, and I get together with all the staff people for 20 minutes every Wednesday, and all I talk about is personal development, like
mm,
why it's important to have good email etiquette, why is
mm,
it important, to be kind to people, why is it important to everything from like your tone of your voice, to saying things like, is there anything extra I can do for you, why that's all important. And then also like how all this stuff that we learn in sales, which sales to me is helping people, you just
mm.
become a better person too. So this translates into your world outside of your career, which is one of the best things I think that sales does for people, is you just become a better person too, which is weird because you don't think that way. But I
Mm,
think, the constant daily team meetings, the constant, weekly, self-development meetings, those have really helped for sure.
mm. Yeah. The sales, what I find interesting is, to me, at least on first entrance into the world of sales, and I've said this on other episodes, so listeners will recall, I had a pretty negative relationship with the idea of sales
Hmm.
because there are so many tactics within sales that can
Hmm.
be manipulative.
Right.
And I think that people forget that there's another side of sales that is helping, right? That
Hmm.
is trying to help people move towards their goals as well.
Right.
And I think you're right. It bleeds into life because we're
Hmm.
always selling in a way. You're always trying to
Yes.
create more relationships. You're always trying to sell yourself, if you will.
Hmm. Hmm.
It just doesn't sound the same as like a car salesman, which is, I think, what I
Right.
initially felt like this industry was.
Totally. And I never want to be like a salesperson, but when I think about sales, I'm really just serving. I'm
Mm,
serving. Like whatever I can do. Can I sweep your floor? Can I show you a loan summary? And whatever it is, like I'm going to serve you. I'm here to serve. And
mhm,
that's really the basis of it all. And
mhm,
with that comes humility. So I'm here to help you, but I have to be humble, and I have to understand that, you might not be ready to purchase right now, and that's okay. But we're
mhm,
ready whatever you are. And if you don't purchase, it's okay.
mhm.
Just letting people know that they don't have to do this, although they should do it, and here are the reasons why. But never being pushy, never, making somebody feel like, they have to do something. I never want to be that person.
Yeah. Did you was there a point in your career where you started to realize, like, it sounds like an abundant mindset, that you
Hmm.
started to pull that in? Because I would think, especially in the beginning,
Hmm.
when you're thinking, I have to make sure I can pick the kids up from school, that I can provide, there is more scarcity, there is more
Yes.
desperation. When did you feel that shifting? Do you remember a point when that kind of started changing?
Yeah, so I went to a Lou Tice event in 2012.
Okay,
You know what
Julie,
that is?
I'm going to interrupt you. I cannot believe you just brought that up. So, my grandfather was someone who worked with Lou Tice
Oh
and
my
taught
God.
taught those teachings at
No
collegiate
way.
level. So he would carry post-its around in his notebook with affirmations and
Oh
whatnot
my
from
God.
Lou Tice. I cannot believe you just brought that up
That's
because
amazing.
that's truly wild. Okay, so this is amazing.
Yeah.
I love these connections. So you went to a Lou Tice
Yes,
conference.
I did. Oh my God, that's so funny. And they gave us like an 8 by 14 piece of paper, and we had to fold it up in little squares, and we wrote things that we wanted in life. It could be material, it could be anything, and and I carry it in my purse today, like it's literally sitting with me here. And everything that I wrote has happened. And it's really, and I was going for the moon and, and what I really realized is that, you know, there's more than enough business for all of us. And that's like my favorite saying. Like abundance is there's more than enough for all of us. And I just want to help people. And if you have that mindset and you know that there isn't you can't live in scarcity, you can literally have whatever you want as long as you're, leading people the right way. I really believe in karma that if you do something wrong to somebody, like, it's going to get you one day, and so yes, I'm all into abundance. I have a Monday morning call with a lot of my loan officers and branch managers where we get on at 9 o'clock a.m. and it's called abundance. So we talk every Monday at 9 a.m. about abundance. So yes, I'm glad that you brought that up. That's really cool.
Yes. Do you have a morning routine that you're doing with this every morning, or is this a weekly
Yeah.
thing?
Well, that meeting that I have, which is on Teams, where we all see each other from all over, the states, that is just a weekly meeting that we have. But in the morning, yes, I sit down, after I have my coffee before I go to the gym. I either journal or I read affirmations or I do my gratitude journal. So, or I listen to something or I read something that has to do with abundance and your mindset. So every morning and on weekends, I try to get that done in the morning.
The morning routine thing, I've always that's something that I used to be a lot more diligent about, but I go through seasons where I'm really good about sitting down and journaling and making sure that everything, I follow a format that was given to us by a coach who worked with our team. And the idea is that you're able to do it in 5 to 10 minutes. Cause I was never someone who wanted a long morning routine. Like we don't have
Right,
time. We have stuff that we're doing. Right.
right.
And, I loved having kind of a format, and hers was always something like, how are you feeling this morning? So you write that out. Then it's, what do I need to do to get in my optimal zone? So if that is drink more coffee, if that's go to the gym, if that's, whatever that is, then you do some gratitude journaling. You name 5 things I'm grateful for. What am I manifesting? Like, what are like the top 2 things that I need to get done today? There's just it's like a little stamp that allows you to start off
Right.
the day well. And, even in my even in like my well, I would just say, especially in my like highest performing moments where everything is going, that tends to be the first thing that falls off my plate. But then
Yeah.
what starts to happen is then sooner or later you realize that you're waking up in anxiety and waking up, feeling like, I got to get out there. And what
Yep.
if I miss it? And what if I don't have the next client? And it starts to seep in, right?
Yes, yes. Because our brain just tells us that. Our brain is like scaring us constantly. What I've learned throughout the years is like I just, when I hear that talk, I just kind of like rise above it. I imagine myself rising above it and just saying, okay, this is just, I'm a human. I'm feeling this way. It's all normal. Just set yourself back. And if I can't make it in the morning, then when I take a walk at night, then I'll put my headphones on and I'll listen to something about abundance. So yeah, I'm not perfect all the time, but I try my best.
It's good to keep remembering that even the people who definitely I look up to you as a woman in business and in leadership. And it's always nice to hear when the women who we perceive as doing everything right are like, I still
Oh
fall off
no.
the train.
Oh gosh, no. No, 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 no. For sure I'm not perfect. For sure.
Oh my gosh. Okay, awesome. I'm curious. So we're talking about the way that you're learning to lead, and you mentioned that you had some people who have left you in the past. Do you have any? A couple of weeks ago, I shared a story just about an awful experience with clients, where I really had to learn that sometimes you're going to be the villain in someone else's story. Do
Yeah.
you have anything that sticks in your brain as like you've disappointed somebody or you failed or someone has walked away from an experience with you
Yeah.
like with a thumbs down?
Yes, yes, absolutely. Both with clients and with team members for sure.
Oh,
I
give
mean,
us
when it's
both, Julie. Give us
yeah.
both.
Okay, good. So with clients, I mean, you know, I've had people who were really upset and just, there's some people that are just generally rude, right? That's a different category. But then what I've really found out is there's really not that many people. There's people that are really who are angry right now. There's something else going on. So what I've realized is that behind anger is fear. So what I realize is that when you actually talk to them, figuring out, is everything okay? Something I can do to help you? I feel like there's something going on. And you talk to your client, you'll all of a sudden find out that, oh, they're in a lawsuit. Somebody's upset with them. Their parent decided not to gift them the down payment, and they're stressed out because they're going to have to cash out their stock, and they didn't want to do that, and now they're under contract. So there's usually always something wrong. I mean, the small percentage are the really jerks, right? But if somebody's really angry when they're a client, it's because there's something else. So I've learned that, and I've told it to my team that, don't assume, just figure out what's wrong and see what we can do to help them. And always speak in a way that's kind, and always, and also at the same time, totally get on their side. I totally understand. That's terrible. I'm so sorry this is happening to you. They want to feel that. They want to feel that you understand them. So yes, I've had all kinds of stories, too many to even think about. But clients, yeah, but I really figure out there's really two categories: a small category of jerks, and then the rest it's just fear. Because
The rest is scary.
this is like the biggest investment. This is shelter, right? People are leaving their leases. They don't have a place to live. This isn't closed, so it's very, very scary. That's why we have put in place in our process to bring joy, and show them that they've made the right decision by little things, by giving them gifts, by, when the appraisal comes in, letting them say something nice about the house, like open it up and just look at it, I can't
You
tell you
do
how
always do that. Yes,
do
you open it up
because
and you say, "Oh my gosh, I love this." Like you actually look at the photos and say, "I
we
love
do.
this kitchen. I can't believe you're going to have this view." Right?
We
You're so
all do
good.
that. And I can't tell you how many times people have called me back and said, I was worried. I was feeling buyer's remorse, but thank you for saying that, because I was really getting worried. So those are the things that I've learned throughout these years to really just put in place. So I always tell the team, we are spreading love and joy, but our product is mortgages. So that's why we have to, help people from anxiety and stress, remind them that this is a big deal and it's exciting, right? So that's what we do for clients. But for team members, my daughter, you might know, my daughter Natasha works with me. She's worked with me for 10 years, right out of college. She went to UW, and she's like, I want to do what you want to do. So she actually started as a loan officer, but she was very young, and it was rough at that time. So she went actually to Nordstrom Corp and got a job over there on the business side. And then we were growing so crazily, so I called her, could you come back? And so she came back. But but when you're growing, you're having these pains and things happen, and my standards are very high because we have to keep it very high, right? And then we had a team member who quit, and she said, I don't like the way you talk to your daughter. Flat out said that, and I was like, whoa, what did I say
Whoa.
there? I know, and my daughter and I spoke about that before. She's like, well, yeah, sometimes you could be like short with me, but I don't care because I know what you're doing. But other people perceive that as I'm rude or a bitch or this or that. So I've had to learn, how to tame it down. Unfortunately with women, if we yell, if we do anything, we are perceived as somebody horrible. Where a man does it, raises his voice, it's different. It's just a different way of doing things. So I've had to learn to, be clear, direct, and firm without hurting somebody's feelings, if that's possible.
Well, it is. It's a fine art.
Right.
There are a lot of folks in the communication world who talk about kind of how you're striking that balance, both people, not just in negotiations, but just communication in general. And it is, I'm gonna blank on her name. She'll come to me, but she talks about the balance between warmth and competence.
Yes.
And how there has to be, is it Vanessa?
I love her.
Yes, her book Cues. It's I will find this and put it in the show notes, but the balance between warmth and competence, and how you have to have the right balance of both, because if you're too competent sounding, it's going to be too much, like cocky and like rude. But if you're too warm, you don't sound as authoritative and able to command or lead. And it's I find that highly intriguing. And I will say, I do think it tends to matter more with women than it
Yeah.
does with men.
Yep.
And so I can see that. Are there, I mean, number one, I would love to talk about how you learn to speak, but are there any kind of outdated rules that you had, that you learned or practiced that have since changed because you're in leadership?
You know what I do know is that, in the lending side, and this is probably like 12 years ago, I was doing a role of where I was basically a branch manager, but they didn't make me a branch manager, but I was doing everything, and I felt like because I was a woman, you know, like if I was a man, they probably would have just said, "Okay, you're going to be a branch manager. Here's your new compensation package." But I was the level below that is a sales manager. So they made me a sales manager, but I was doing those jobs. So I had to ask for the job. Where I felt like if I was a man, they would have probably just given it to me. But so I think as a woman in our industry, we have to ask more for it. But that was back then. It's different today. I mean, honestly, today it's like if you're a woman in lending, you are better than the guys. That's how they say it today. So it's really, really different. But back then it was more. I had to ask for it. If I wanted something, I had to go get it. Nothing was going to be given to me.
Yeah. Do you have any moments that you can call to mind about where like speaking up or holding firm on something that you believed in or wanted or needed to happen where it cost you something? Obviously, hopefully it was still worth it, but do you remember anything like that where you really had to kind of like dig your heels in?
You know, let's see here. I think that was the only example that I had is that I just knew that I needed to ask for that role. And then if I almost was, upset, like, wow, if I didn't ask for that, I would have been doing this job and I wouldn't have gotten compensated correctly, you know? So that's probably the only example that I could really think of. Luckily, like I said earlier, this lending today, it's like it doesn't matter, honestly, men or women. They want
Yeah.
you to be a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, cross country, our company today, we have more women than men. So it's pretty
Good to
cool.
know. I love knowing that. I think that's a really great point. I think there is a certain amount of kind of anger, frustration across everybody that sometimes you do just have to ask. And something that I talk a lot about with my community is that everyone has to do what's right for their business. And that doesn't mean that it's necessarily right for your business. It behooves them that you were doing the role that you were doing while not being paid for the role that you were doing. It does
Right.
help their business, right?
Oh,
But it,
yes.
it doesn't hurt, it doesn't help yours. And I think
Right.
people forget sometimes they're like, how dare they didn't promote me? I've been doing all this extra work. I've been giving them more than I should have. And the the other side is, did you ask? Like,
Yeah.
did you ask to be paid more before you did
Right.
that? And
Right.
something Voter and I talk about a lot about, especially on the ships, is when we were working on cruise lines, the biggest thing that would happen is if you took on a role in your position that wasn't within your job description, it would quickly become your job. Like if you took it on
Ooh.
without negotiating for it. And that's something that I think, especially like Voter and I are big, we want to over deliver. We want to over deliver as much as possible. But sometimes what that means is that you end up over delivering for a long period of time. And you
Interesting.
realize suddenly that now everyone's expecting you to do the over delivery part. And it's no longer over delivering, it's just delivering, but you weren't paid extra or compensated extra or promoted to do that. And so we talk a lot about how, like, yes, there's a certain point where you want
Can
to
you give
over
me an
deliver.
example of that? Because that is so intriguing. Like what
Yes.
would you do?
Yeah. So, for example, if I took my roles on the cruise ships, if you go on, you're contracted I was contracted as a swing first, which is meaning I covered all of the female roles in the show. So I had to know every track, and I also performed every night. So I was an on-stage
Wow.
swing. So if someone went out, my track would change. I would do partial my track, and I would perform theirs at the same time. So what would happen is the next contract I went on, it was the same show, but I was being bumped up to a full-time one character role. And what had happened when I was a swing, I tried to negotiate my pay, and the casting director said, "Oh, you're going to get paid an extra, however much it was, $50 or something a part, like an additional every week you get paid a little extra for covering all of the roles. Like your base salary would be this much, but you got paid an extra per role." And so when I was trying to negotiate my base salary up, he said, you're probably never going to go on for these roles. So like, really, this is doing you a favor. All right, that's totally fine. I'll take it. Because I wasn't like, you're not in a main role. So therefore you're not going to be paid as such. And I said, okay, great. When I came back the next contract, I took on a main role, and the offer went down. My pay went down. And so I said, "Hey, now I'm a main role. I want to be paid for the main." And he said, "Well, it's just in this case, you're not going to be covering swing tracks. So you're not going to have as much work to do."
Wow.
And I was like, wait, hold up. And so of course there was kind of this shuffle where I had to come back and say, "All right, well, you need someone out there in a week and a half, and either you pay me what I'm asking or I'm not going."
Good
and
for
then you. Yeah. At that point, I was helping negotiate all of my friends and their contracts on these ships, which was great. But he said, "Okay, well, if you go out there, we're not going to pay you extra if you end up having to cover another role." Meaning, if someone else went out and they needed someone to step in, they would just expect me to do it because I'd already done it, but they weren't going to pay me. And I just said, no problemo. But of course, I signed the contract and I went on board and I said, I'm just not going to step into the role, because I know as soon as I do that and I'm a main role, knowing that I could cover another track, that would be expected of the main role, whoever came on after me. And they wouldn't be compensated for additional work.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah. And so Voter had a similar experience, whereas a technical production manager, if he started doing more bits, if he started doing the role of, one of the other parts, it would be because someone else wasn't fulfilling their job. It would become the workload of whoever went into his position next. Yes.
That is really interesting.
I know it really is. And that happens all the time in offices, right? Like major layoffs happen and large companies expect someone to take on the work of whoever left and not get promoted or compensated. And anyways, so just an interesting side quest here.
Good job.
Yeah. Fun stuff. So I'm also, you are big in the content space now, and you started being very diligent with content and speaking and really showing up in your role. I want to say in like the last 2 years or so. Has that been like
3 years? Yeah.
3 years? 3 years?
Yeah.
You are such an eloquent speaker. I need to know, is that something that you were always pretty good with, or is that something you had to coach and like learn how to do?
That's really nice of you to say, but no, I think I just got better and better because of the consistency. So, 3 years ago, I went to an event. It was for lenders and realtors about, just like, you have to be out there, you have to educate people. And I thought, you know what, like this, that's right. Like I have to do this because I'm going to be left behind if I don't. And so I just made the commitment. I went to this little group. There were 10 people. And I remember the speaker saying, I'm going to tell you guys all these things, but 9 out of 10 of you won't do this anyway. I'm like, well, that's going to be me. I'm going to do that, So it's like I took a challenge and I learned how to, it just took time, to be honest. If you go back to my first ones, they were horrible, but I just got better and better just because I felt more comfortable. And part of that is, just realizing that I'm just talking to a first-time home buyer that just needs my help, that I'm only talking to one person. I'm here to educate you. I don't need to talk about the most exciting idea in the world. It's just what's an appraisal, how do you pick a house? It's very simple things because that's who we're really serving.
Yes. Yeah. Do you have like a mindset that you put yourself in when you're doing that kind of speaking? I ask because I often think about, I could look at this like I'm coming to the negotiating table and I'm trying to prove my worth. I'm trying to like prove it. And that can feel very scary because suddenly I have an audience, right? Whereas if I'm sharing or guiding, if I'm suddenly someone's, I don't even want to say teacher, but if I'm suddenly like taking somebody's metaphorical hands and saying like, I got you with this, like we can do this together, that's a very different feeling than being like, I got to prove it. And I'm just wondering, when you come to the table, how are you setting yourself up for that?
It's all just education. That's
Yeah.
it. Just I'm here to educate people. Just to, I want to talk third, fourth grade level, just
Yeah.
because there's, in our industry, there's just so many big words that, that if you don't hear it a lot, you're not going to know what it is. So just really just educating people and just spreading, the truth that buying real estate is really a way to, it's not the only way, but it's a great way to build wealth in your life. I mean, today we have 5 homes, and it's completely changed how we, what's going to happen when we retire, right? So it's just sharing that through experience.
Yes. And well, that makes me ask so now, you've created this life and this, and I know you work with your husband and you have a couple of kids on the team, right? Aren't two
Yeah,
of your
well,
kids?
yeah, my husband retired a couple years ago,
Oh,
so
he did.
he retired. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. So you have all created this life and this family affair, if you will. Um,
Yes.
how does success look different for you now than it looked, say, like 10 or 20 years
Oh
ago?
gosh. Yeah. I mean, I was on a mission to build wealth back in the day. It
Uh-huh.
was just like, I need to, put food on the table for the
Yes.
kids. I mean, I was a single mom for a while, and it was just me. I didn't get child support, nothing. So I was just trying to, make money and, and learn and it was an exciting time at the same time, but be present too for my kids, for their games, for all that. And so that was just more like meeting my basic needs, but saving money. And then, as the years went on, I just really put my head down, just started working, and all of a sudden, oh crap, wow, I made all this money and I have money now and I can invest it, and I can do this, I can do that. And then now it's about leaving a legacy for my family. I just want to leave something for them, so that they know how much I love them. And it doesn't mean that because you're leaving money, that's love, because of course there's more to it than that. But I want to help my children's children. That's a real
Yes.
legacy to me, my children's children. So
Yes.
leave something for them. But then at work, it's more, it's like, how can I help you in your career? When I do one-on-ones with the team, I'm always asking them, what's your next job? What do you want to do? How can I help you get there? So
What? Julie, that's amazing. I had no idea you did that. I feel like so many leaders are afraid of their people leaving, and here you are like,
you
how can I
can't stop it.
catapult you?
Liz, I'm going to tell you right now, people will leave. You cannot stop it. No matter how great you are, no matter what you give them, people will leave. And honestly, what I found, and our billionaire, owner says the same thing. It's like your employees are probably good for 5 years, right? So why not really take care of them in that 5 years and help them get wherever they want to get? So Brittany on our team, she's been with me for 5 years, and she's going to be a loan officer this year. So I'm going to be mentoring her, helping her get on her feet, and that's what she wants to do, and I'll be helping her. So that's what you kind of do. And some people make it, some people don't, but
Yeah.
they can always come back if it doesn't work out. But just helping them go to what they want. I mean, I don't want to. My mentor told me this too, because I was like, oh, maybe this person isn't ready for this. And he basically said, you can't stop people's dreams, Julie. You have to help them. And it's so true. And so when I embrace that, how can I help you? And if I have to let somebody go, I'm on the phone trying to get them a job because I feel so terrible, right? Maybe they don't fit on our team. Our team is all about speed. Speed, 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 speed. And not everybody can fit in this mold. It doesn't mean you're a bad employee. It just means you don't fit in what we do. So I've been on the phone. Hey, do you have calling corporate? Is there a job that this person can take? Just whatever I can do, because, I always feel bad, if something happens. But you can't hold on to people forever. So why not just help them get to where they want?
It feels like you've taken something like, I think that all of us who have, isms like people pleasing or, eldest daughter syndrome or whatever that looks like. There's also the positive side. So even though you're saying like, and I just feel bad, at the end of the day, you're also now using that, your own thing to help other people actually get somewhere. It's like I see both sides where it's like that's not technically our responsibility, but at the
Yeah.
same time, if you can do it, why
Yeah.
wouldn't you? Like, why
Right.
wouldn't you make someone else's life a little bit better, especially if you already know you're going to kind of feel bad because it's not the right fit with you.
Right, right. It's true. It's really true. So, so now that I've accumulated, wealth in real estate and, whatever I want to do, it's just more about giving back to the people who work with you. That's
Yes.
really what it is. And I don't want to retire. I mean, I can't even imagine, like, I just want to keep doing this because it's fun and it's, and then two of my kids work with me too, and so it's
Yeah.
great. So I just can't imagine doing anything else.
I love it. And so I know that you have had to release people, you've had to
Mhm.
you know change up your team here and there. Do you have any stories you can share with us about setting better boundaries, like holding firm to a value or
Mhm.
anything that because I think something a lot of the people who are listening struggle with is setting boundaries and kind of saying like that's not something I'm willing to do or being very firm in that way. Do you have anything that comes to mind?
Well, so I talk about speed and how it's important. I mean, in the industry, like you have to be quick, you have to be fast. I mean, you just have to
Yep.
be that way. And some people don't fit that mold. And
Yep.
and I can't bend rules for somebody else, and basically I need A players, right? And
Hmm.
to me, an A player is speed because that's what we
Hmm.
need. But in a different industry, it could be different, right? It could be more methodical,
Yes.
project oriented. But we have a deadline on every deal.
Yeah.
There's a deadline. So I've learned that I just have to let go, and if they don't fit, they don't fit. Like we had somebody recently that I had to have a heart to heart with him, and I just basically said, do you really want this job? Because you knew that when I hired you, that this is all about speed, and
Hmm.
here are the things that you're not doing right now, and then the next day he didn't show up for work. So it
Oh,
happens.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and that's just what happens sometimes, I just have to be firm, and I have to just know what we want because, the worst thing you could have on your team, is a B player. Because
Hmm.
if you have a B player, everybody thinks that that's okay. And then they all tend to
Hmm.
go down to be the B player.
Hmm.
So you have to really inspect what you expect and
Hmm.
you have to drive that in and you just have to walk the walk, and I tell these
Yes.
to my students too. I'm like, you can't expect your team to be amazing if you're not out there doing your job and being the best you can be. You can't be late to meetings. You can't like say you're going to, make your calls and make your updates, but then, you're not doing those things, but then you expect your team to do it.
Hmm.
So they're going to follow by example. So if you are up here, they will follow you. And if you
Yes.
start to go down, they will start to go down too. So it all starts at the
Yes.
top.
Yes. And that is, I think, a form of boundary setting. I think some people think like you set a boundary, you're like, this is my boundary. But a lot of times it's not. It's simply acting within the realm of like, this is what
Hmm.
I expect. And if
Right.
that isn't the case, like these are going to be the consequences or
Hmm.
this is going to be the reaction.
Hmm.
Sometimes it truly is just leading with the boundary of sorts
Yep.
of
Yep.
what you
Yeah.
expect from others.
Yep. Your standards for sure.
Yes.
If your standards are high for your team, you better be the
Right.
best person on your team.
Yeah. I also love that you approached what could have been a really uncomfortable conversation with curiosity. I think people forget to ask that question. Like, listen, we like you as a person, but do you want this job? And this is going to be uncomfortable. I have to ask you
Hmm.
because I'm noticing X, Y, and Z, and these were the expectations beforehand. So I have to ask, is this a place you really want to be?
Yeah, I've had that conversation several times, and some people, turn it around and yeah, okay, I'm sorry, blah blah blah. Some people slowly quit. Have you heard that term,
Quiet
slowly?
quitting.
Quiet quitting, quiet quitting, and then they're gone all of a sudden. But
Hmm.
but if you don't say that, it's just going to get worse, and there's just no way I can have that. It's just we have
Yes.
to be so on top of things. So
Well,
that's
because
why in our industry, it's almost like a revolving door. It's just
yes.
the way it is.
Yes. Yeah. And your business, your team, everyone is affected, right?
Yes.
Like everyone is affected by the success or the losses of the team, right? And
Hmm.
so it is for the greater good. And that's very hard, I feel.
Exactly. And even like with my kids who work here, I tell them like you have to be the hardest working people. There is no nepotism here. Like you have to deserve to be here. There's just no
Yes.
way. And
Yes.
so they know that because I'm not going to favor somebody over the other person. It's just,
Yes.
you can't do that.
Ah, I love it. I love it. Okay. I have a couple more questions for you. I gotta know. We are called kind of a bitch here because I
I
really do
love that.
believe that bitch is subjective. People call people bitches for a wide array of reasons, and some people's version of what bitch means can be very positive, and some people can really use it in a derogatory way. And I am
Mhm.
curious, what feels like the worst thing that you've been called? It could be a swear word or not.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've been called a bitch.
Oh, for
Sometimes I
sure.
block things out because I don't want to think about it.
Yes. For
But
example, mine was diva. Someone called me a diva and
oh,
and I
I would love to be a diva.
so you know what's this is a great question. My girlfriend Amy, one time I told her that I was called a diva and she was like, "I'd way rather be called a diva than be called boring."
Yes, I agree. That means I love it. No, I like
Right.
that. Yeah.
But again, because of the way I was raised, the idea of being a diva and people
Hmm.
thinking that I thought I was better than them or that
Hmm.
I was, selfish or like too big for my britches felt
Yeah.
like a really bad thing. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, like bitch. I mean, I feel like all women at some point will be called that
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
Are there
I'm
any
sure I
that stand
have
out for
been.
you?
And yeah, and I'm sure that, behind the scenes there's things like that too all the
Mm,
time.
mm,
But, I can't focus on that. So for me, like one of the things that is really important is humility.
mm.
Like no matter how much, how much business you do, how much money you have, if you're not humble, if you just treat people wrong, I mean, nothing good is going to happen to you in the end,
Hmm.
bottom line. But of course, because we're women and we're strong and we've reached these levels, yes, we're going to be called all kinds of things. But if you think about it, whoever's calling you that doesn't have your standards, right? So they
Hmm.
don't, it doesn't matter to me because, it's just like you can say like, somebody who's, if somebody's making fun of me for working out every day, they're probably not in great shape. If you're in great
Yes.
shape, you're never going to say that about me, you
Right.
know? So it's the same thing here.
Yes, there's some phrase that's like someone who is like ahead of you in life or is,
Hmm.
kind of the highest version of themselves.
Right.
They don't do the talking down. It's the people who are
Exactly.
maybe aspiring to be more or not reaching their own goals who tend to talk badly about the people who are trying harder than they are.
That's it. Exactly. Yep.
All right, my last question for you, Julie. If something I ask myself constantly right now is what would I say to my younger self? Like, how can I
Mm-hmm.
speak to my younger self and how can I do things now that
Hmm.
would be the medicine that she needed to see? If you could speak to your younger self now, what would
Yeah.
you tell her?
Ooh, that's really good. Well, gosh, thinking about all the things that, that happened throughout my life that I didn't even talk about, but probably that, and I can even see her. I've seen
Mm.
her through therapy, but yes.
Yes. Tell us,
Yeah.
walk us through that with you. We want to know. What does
Oh,
she
yeah.
look
Well,
like?
I mean, basically, a really great therapist, like had me close my eyes, meditate,
Mm.
find her and see what she looks like. I even saw the dress she was wearing, and just, met her probably at like 5 or 6.
Mm.
And basically, if, what I would say today is that, it's all going to be okay.
Mm.
And you're going to just be stronger for everything that you've gone through,
Mm.
and that life is beautiful, and just keep doing what you're doing, and it'll all work out, and you're going to have amazing children, and you're just going to leave a legacy. I'm even thinking for the future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just keep that joy no matter what happens, and keep that humility, and just love pretty much is what it is. Love is
Love hard.
everything, with relationships, even with the people that I work with. Like, I have a list of like my ideal client, my ideal referral partner, my ideal employee, and I've done that because I want to see where I'm going, and if something comes to me that is not that way, I know they're just not for me, and it's okay.
Mm.
But probably just tell her that it's all going to work out. You're going to work with wonderful people. You're going to have, great people in your life, and you're going to help people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all going to be great because
Mm-hmm.
it is. I'm so
Yeah.
blessed. I really am.
Yeah. And I do think that you call that in, like you cultivate that and you call that in many ways. I'm sorry. Now I have one more question. If you could talk to your younger self and tell her what
Hmm.
happens in her life, like would you do that? Like, do you think you would want to
Oh
know about
God.
your future, or do you think you'd want it to be
I think
unknown?
I'd want to know the end, but not all the stuff in between.
Mm, mm. You're like, I just want to know that it's like good vibes, that
Yeah.
it ends well, and then
Yeah. That's all.
then
And then
then
just,
the
it's
rest.
okay. It's gonna all work out. Like the
I'm
end.
kind of the
Yeah.
same. Like, don't tell me all
Yeah.
the other stuff. I just want to know that we're like good, and
Right.
then that's it. I want to
That's
know.
good.
Am I watching a horror film, or
Yeah.
am I watching like a love story? Like,
Yeah.
let me
Yeah.
know, and then I'm good to
Yeah.
move forward. Totally
Yeah.
agree.
I love it.
Awesome. Okay, Julie, if people want to find you, if people want to go follow you, to maybe reach out to you for their own home buying process, where can they find you? Give us a
Yeah.
little pitchy pitch
Sure.
here.
Yeah. Well, I'm on Instagram and
Mhm,
Julie Johnson Mortgage,
mhm.
and that's where follow me to get education. Just I love it when there's different people follow me. It's fun. And on Facebook, it's Julie Johnson. I don't think it's mortgage, just Julie Johnson. But I love it because all of a sudden I have like almost 100,000 followers on Facebook, and they're all over the
Look.
world. And it's so cool just to see different communities. Probably because my heritage, maybe I'm attracting, different parts of the world, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's just fun. So yeah, Julie Johnson Mortgage, and I'm right here in Seattle. So
Ah, amazing. Julie, thank you so, so, so much. This is truly a dream. Like I said in the beginning, you are someone who I believe is unapologetically bold about who she is, but also fiercely kind. And you're just such a role model for all of us who are hoping to lead and to grow in this life. So thank you so much.
thank you. When I think about you, Liz, it's like you are like if I was like you at that age, like oh my God, like you are just going to surpass me like crazy. So I'm excited to see your future.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. Thank you. I don't know if I would want to know about it fully, like we said, but if someone tells me it's all going up from here, I'd be
Yeah,
like, okay, awesome, I'm on
it
board.
is.
So,
I mean, you got a great. What's going on right now is amazing, and it's just going to get better for you.
ah,
Yeah.
awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much, Julie. I am so appreciative. I'll probably be talking to you in a couple of days.
Perfect. I'll
All
text
right.
you after this.
Sounds good. Talk to you then. All
Okay.
right. Thanks.
Thank you. Are we signing off?